I think AI is gonna like, I don't know. I got this paranoia a couple weeks ago when everyone was talking about AI, and I think it's interesting that it's not taking over prominently in super practical things. It seems to be taking over in art for the most part, and
which can be its own danger, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's dangerous. Like the human spirit, what's that going to do to us as creative beings if we have a machine creating for us?
Personally, I think that they need to make it to where it's heavily regulated, where you can use it to finish an artwork, but you can't use it to actually, like, you have to still have the framework for it yourself. You have to make sure that the source material is your own.
That's fair. I'd go for that. Which is weird for me to say, being a free market.
I think they should. I think they should outlaw it. I'm of the camp that they should outlaw it entirely, and there's a couple of reasons I go with that one. Mostly is because art already homogenizes as is, right? And people derive a lot of stuff from, like, art essentially shapes culture. And when it becomes homogenistic or homogenized, you see one artist copying another after another. And I'm already seeing regular artists copy what the AI have already produced to get similar looks, or using it in their work and then modifying it. And another artist will pick that up, another artist will pick that up. For a little while, we saw like pastel colors almost everywhere, right? In art. And it's just going to get worse from here, right? At this point, it's going to homogenize. The writing's going to do the same thing. And like, I don't know, it just looks soulless. Like, you can tell.
You're kind of right about. You're definitely right about that.
Yeah. I'll agree. It does make things look a lot more drab and fake. So.
It does feel it lacks that emotional tether that you have. Like someone draws something that truly was something they really loved drawing. You can feel it in it. You can feel their heart in it. You can feel like there's a connection to it. And even if it's not perfect, you can see. In fact, the imperfections kind of make it worthwhile. It makes it like you can see where their flaws are, but you also see that they tried their best to make it better or to try to improve on it. And especially over time with AI art, it's a computer improving, so it's not really anything. It's computer generated. There's no heart. It's just pumping out another version. It's the equivalent of art porn. It's corn. I forget that.
No, it's okay. Our first stream, I was joking about IRS porn. So
they're definitely just tools, though. There's nothing really intelligent like about it. They come short of passing the Turing test. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely not intelligence.
We'll have to watch it as it adapts, but I mean, like, painters 100 years ago didn't have Photoshop, so like at some level you can't stop progress. You just have to put enough like fail safes in place.
As realistic as it looks, I think there is something subconscious, like when Theo was saying, like you could see the imperfections, and just relate to what someone's feeling when they draw something. It kind of reminds me of mirror neurons and how the more sympathetic animals in the animal kingdom, like cats and dogs, have mirror neurons too, and they learn from watching people's expressions, and they're more social creatures, and you learn from just watching, and that's because of the mirror neurons in your brain. And I feel like that must be related somehow to the way you could just look at something and tell another human being created that, and they must have been feeling these things, and I could feel these things from looking at it. I don't know if you'll ever be able to get that from a computer.
No, you won't. It's too complex to be able to capture that essence. It's a spiritual. It's not just emotional. It's a spiritual thing. You can feel it. Like there's a.
Yeah. I do think it is spiritual.
Eternal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because we could explain it with our brains and our brain development, I think there's definitely a metaphysical element in there. Of like, there's definitely a spiritual aspect to it for sure.
Because psychological things can only explain so much. You can implement psychological tests and things on a computer, and it can pass it. It can do all the psychological examination of a human. In fact, have you seen some of the writers today? They write more like computers than a computer does. I mean, it's just some of today's writers in Hollywood. A lot of their movies seem almost manufactured, and maybe they already are using AI writing. For all I know, I mean, my brother and I we joke about that all the time. It's like, are they
Isn't that
already?
What the whole protest is going on with the Hollywood that they're already using AI?
That's part of it, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It has to be. Or I still would laugh if it's not, and it actually ends up improving the writing. If they end up improving on the writing, the stories actually end up good because they're copying the source material. They just copy the source material, put it into a AI, and then just pumps out a movie or a show, and it's comic book accurate, book accurate, whatever. It comes out exactly like the book, exactly like the movie, with a few deviations, small deviations that are just so small that you don't even notice it. And then you have the actual writers who think they're writers. Not everyone in there is a writer. I noticed a lot of people that got hired, they're people who are failed comedians that were on YouTube. A lot of them are failed YouTubers who are maybe not failed, but they're famous for among normies, not among people who actually appreciate that kind of artwork, the kind of superhero or sci-fi or fantasy, those genres, the popular IPs that everyone's trying to copy. And it's something that you can't replicate unless you care about it. And it's, like I said, it seems as though they themselves are writing like AI, like bots. And it's like, have they already been replaced, or is like, are these protesters already the AIs themselves? It's like, it's just
right. Yeah, it's definitely generic and soulless. You could tell.
Yes.
You could tell they're not fans of the work.
I mean,
Yeah.
On the counter to that, though, the stuff that Hollywood's producing the last couple of years is also generic and soulless as well, right? So
yes.
If they write go ahead.
When you have this line of like, you got to think this way and you got to speak this way and act this way, it stifles creativity because you're crushing people's individuality when you do that.
Yeah.
People do have to earn each other's respect. That was one of my biggest complaints with The Force Awakens, because you got this former stormtrooper and the X-Wing pilot, and then they're just like friends all of a sudden, and it never comes up again where they might distrust each other.
Yeah.
When you look at A New Hope by comparison, for like half the movie, they don't even like each other as a group, and they end up becoming best friends.
Yeah, Han and Luke don't get along until like the last 20 minutes.
And Leia and Han absolutely hate each other.
Yeah, which I think is hilarious.
Right.
So,
and then when they are getting along, it's very dysfunctional as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like basically like that. People who like you're forced to work with, but you develop a friendship with, in a sense. Because it's not, because you're stuck with these people, like they're your comrades in arms. It's not people you necessarily like, it's people that you're joking with, like it's
Totally.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why The Office is still really popular too. Like you just work with these people and you try to get along, and sometimes you genuinely have really good friends that come out of it and friendships that come out of it. It's more because you're like forced to bond with each other.
Yeah.
Any other reason. Like there would be no other catalyst for any other reason.
Right. Yeah.
That's another reason why I don't think young people are really great at a lot of things. It's like you haven't learned enough, seen enough, experienced enough to pick up on a lot of the nuances and stuff. And I don't think young people today are taught about human nature either, because they're force fed all this stuff where it's like, oh, you have to work together. You're a woman, you have to support other women, and you're a man, so you're toxic, so you have to step back and let other people have their turn. And it's like like meritocracy is not a thing. Okay,
when you're homeschooled, that's a whole other dilemma, because then when you run into those kind of people, and then your own upbringing is separate from that, and so you're taught real human interaction between your family members and other people that you know on a more personal level. So whenever you're told, when you're a guy told, move aside, you gotta make room for this girl, and you're like, no, just no,
right,
back off.
I've seen the
do what I'm
memes
gonna do.
It reminds me of those memes. If you homeschool, your kid won't fit into normal society. Yeah, that's the point.
There's a reason that
home-
rich people didn't send their kids to public school 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
Right. Or
I mean,
now. They still do. I don't think.
actually, yeah. I've seen that most rich kids are homeschooled. Most of them, not all
That
of
are
them.
privately schooled, yeah.
There's that one. Yes. However, those they might as well be going to regular school because they're being taught pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah.
They behave in a manner that is unbecoming of a human being. They're very disturbed and
Yeah.
psychotic, narcissistic. They're literally trained to be narcissistic, and it's sad and weird.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then they are thrown into the real world, and they're like, why don't people like me? Why don't they give me attention? And it's like, because you don't deserve it. You didn't earn anything.
Yeah. I think that's all goes back to like, there's definitely a craving for like real stuff, real human interaction, stuff that's not force fed.
Yeah.
Stuff that's not performative or what's the other word I'm looking for? Like you said, fake, disingenuous, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm homeschooling my kids now, and I will say, like, you do have to teach them. Like, I teach them, you don't have to like everybody, but you should try to get along. So that means you have manners, and if someone's not playing along, you leave as quickly as you can, usually.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely important.
It's hard to find a balance. There's an episode of the Rugrats, I think, where Betty and Howard are like, they're redoing their vows or something, and Betty's on a computer and she's typing in everything that you need to know to be a mom, and then the computer breaks down. She's like, yeah, that's it. I feel that way about human interaction. Like, do this thing, except when this thing doesn't work, and then there's this thing that you have to watch, and then this thing, and then it'll be fine. So
yeah.
And if it's not fine, I'll be here.
You gotta keep it authentic and stay true to your beliefs. That's, I think.
Yeah. Because I think as long as you teach a child or teach them while they're young to be mindful of your elders and also don't take any crap at the same time. But so whenever you interact with people who try to talk down to you, you know how to respond. But then there's the element of think before you speak. You can't just react. You have to learn how to think for a moment, reflect. What's the outcome of this? Will you cause harm? Will you, as long as you can reflect and then be like, well, this is only going to hurt this one person, and everyone else is going to understand. Then you give that reaction. you speak clearly. You correct, but do never tear down and never try to harm someone. Only you can humble someone, but there's a difference. There is a balance that you have to achieve there. And I think if you teach them, like I said, when they're young, help them learn properly, don't force them to behave this way, but make sure it becomes natural to them by setting the example, being that way around them, so that they will see it and understand it and then be like, oh, okay. That's how I think today they brainwash kids into behaving a certain way by that's why they have them in front of the TV all the time. They have them on the tablet all the time. And it's disturbing and it's weird. That's why they seem so alien. And they're like, you see another human.
Yeah.
They're just so...
For what it's worth, my kids don't like that when they have too much tech screen time. I can tell, and I've told them before. I'm like, you don't want to be pouring your soul into the screen. You need other people. You need to put it on paper where you can show it to other people. So
yeah, it's definitely good to be able to separate the technology from real human interaction.